Morning Scrum with Govind Davis.
Wow, that did not work at all the way I expected that to. I have no idea what that looked like streaming, but I really know. I spent a whole bunch of time on that intro. But the truth is, like, who really watches the intro? You can just like replace that in the recorded video. So, right? So, yeah. Let's turn this on. That like whole like entry experience was so like complicated that it was so like discombobulating that anyway, it's like the video plays, but it like stops. And it's like you don't really know when it's actually streaming. So, in any case, yeah, today's topic is going to be an interesting one. I'm like, okay, I have like this thing I have to get done, and it's the most important like part of the whole like I would say marketing and sales process. And it actually, like, as I was thinking about it, I was re-envisioning like this sort of the 6 stages of marketing into like, you know, like 2 like funnels facing each other actually. But it's more like kind of coming in and going out, right? And the centerpiece of the whole thing is this, like, you know, like, how do you get people to like buy something from you, right? Like, and putting together the pitch and all of that, like and that's really, to me, the strategy, right? And like once that's clear and you're like, okay, that's the focal point of everything, then it becomes a matter of like just building materials and like executing, right? And so I'm going to talk about that and share like just a super quick picture of it, and also talk about like, hey, what does this mean for me in terms of like my business model, and how do I communicate that? And then I'm going to take whatever the output of this is and add it to like, I did another recording last week, so I have like a ton of like thought around this business model already, and I just need to like put the final touches on it and create just this killer landing page that becomes the center point of all of this. So anyway, I'm going to talk about, like, for me, this idea of the pillar. Like, for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to offer to other people like a process that really like understands their business model and like aligns like my influencing work in a way that is hyper focused on getting like outcomes for them, the real results. And even on a small scale, like even if it's a single post, it's like go through this process, really understand the who, and then also like amplify the value for this kind of direct marketing stuff. So anyway, I'll talk more about that. You know, definitely want to make sure I include the spot here for warm up IP. Always like my first sponsor. I'm like, I gotta go get more. I have to grow. Like now I gotta go. I gotta make the use of this one, you know, to help and go out and be like, okay, it's time to like go to market, right? Really excited to work with these guys because I know they're all like just reach this point like where I'm like, okay, I'm big enough now. I've got like enough momentum from you know, like this thing, you want to scale it to email. Big process around, you know, outbound and communication. Like to me, it starts with like the personal side of things, but to like get scale, you have to grow the email. So this is definitely a company to check out. And then I'm going to go right into my talk here. So first, I'm going to talk about like what is the pillars of the It's just, see, I actually I was like, okay, like the pillars, I was like, yeah, this is cool. And I'm like, I need a name for this. And so I was like, I asked her like, I forget what, like, maybe I was trying to think about like success or something. And I was like, I need a synonym so it ends with Y. So I was thinking of this game. It's a game called the I didn't play it very much. It's a pretty like it's from like the Dragon Age or whatever. But it was like one of the little things. Yeah, this is okay. Or no, it could. Yeah, anyway, it could have been like anyway, it's some kind of RPG. I don't remember about it. But yeah, it's something from BioWare. Probably. Anyway, so anyway, I decided to call it. This is a thing, like when I look at like what this says to me and like what it encapsulates from everything that I've learned from like my marketing experience and things that win and things that don't win, and it just the like memories and different advice I got along the way. And one of them was just like, there was a guy who does corporate, like high end, marketing, and he like, is really focused on the like, hey, his thing was like, marketing fails because of strategy. And I'm like, that, and that's where, everybody focuses on these like other things, and then like they miss the strategy. It doesn't matter how hard you work out what materials are, if you don't have strategy, then you're how do I? Okay, yeah, sorry, that music. It was like really good, and then it went to not really good. So yeah, like okay, and getting back to the strategy, and I actually think it's like a little different than this. Like marketing failed because of strategy, execution, lack of content, and also like I added this yellow box to me, which is like the environment or like just the world, right? Like there's an element of like these things have to operate within like a media, right? Like it's your audience, and like they have to align, right? So this seems like really simple. It's like, oh yeah, of course, right? You're like, okay, what in the world, like, what do these things even mean? And then like, how do you tie them all together? And it's like, how do you create magic in marketing, right? Actually, Chris McGrath was like, yeah, there's a little bit of like alchemy in this, right? Where no matter how, that's maybe the kind of nuance, like no matter how hard you try to like, and how much you want to succeed in marketing, like even if you have all of these things, if you don't have the right time and place and conditions, right? Like you can still fail. So I mean, like huge companies, like let's say OpenAI, right? I mean, he's doing all the right things. This guy's a brilliant guy, all this stuff, but maybe just like he picked the wrong fight, right? Or maybe he just is in a space where, and maybe not, right? There's going to be winners and losers in this like, great power competition that's happening, right? So, and like that's the thing, like in say marketing, what you can do is you can compete effectively, and you can do all of the right things and still maybe just get like nominal results. Like I saw this in SEO, whatever. I ran an SEO company for about months. It was like, okay, we had the expertise to execute SEO, but how often did it create like outstanding? It was like, okay, you're competing against the other guys who did an okay job, and like during some periods of time got growth, but then you like start to run into your competition in any space, right? And you're like, so this is just fodder for like, hey, just never think that that you can you can just come up with a gameplay that always wins. What you can do is make yourself more and more competitive, and be able to really see what's around you, and also understand that like, hey, you can spot things that are guaranteed to fail because they don't have to, like they're just going to fall over before they can fight, right? So like strategy, this is the who, what, when, where, how, like just like what's our positioning, what's your product look like the time and energy that goes into making sure you're like, hey, are there people out there who like actually want this thing? there's, and you can get way deep into this, right? But like, say for me, I'm like, I don't need to do like market analysis and all this stuff. I'm like, there's an influencer market out there. I did some research. There's like people that pay $500 to $5,000 a post, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to sell a post for $500 as like a content piece. And I'm working through all this, like a lot of like rich like nuance. It's like detailing my product and all of that. And that's just kind of interface with like strategy and materials, right? Like the strategy needs to shape like, okay, I'm going to create content that supports, like I have a game plan and a centerpiece or a focal point for what I'm trying to accomplish. Like in war or something, it might be like, hey, our game plan basically is to like take over the smallest country next to us or something like that, instead of like there could be there could be lots of different, there's all kinds of different strategies. Yeah, that's why they're always part of the environment. Their strategies always in the context of like what's going on for you, right? It's like, what is my challenge, and like what are my ideas to like solve that, and that leads into this kind of materials, right? Like you need content, resources, things like that bolster and support strategy. Like this would be the same thing again, in any kind of like thinking context, right? Which is like, what do I need? Or in marketing, it's like, what information, knowledge do I need to present to people to get them to go ahead and convert and buy my thing, right? And so this is where you got to think about like, okay, what content is it, what systems would be needed. You can bucket this in lots of different ways, but I actually really like this one. It's like it's a nice like kind of a diagram, you could say, and so let's go, probably somebody already drawn this, I'm sure. Like execution is kind of obvious, but kind of like, again, you could fall down and fail at execution. Like, hey, I've got all this, I've seen this, like, hey, really actually pretty good business strategy for doing strike deck, customer success SaaS, like pretty good, like kind of positioning, product, all that kind of stuff. Like a gazillion, like tons of materials that like nobody was looking at, right? And so, what I ended up helping them with was build a huge audience on LinkedIn, and then like once they kind of got, actually the strategy was, I should say they had a good product, but they just didn't, and they had a good stretch. No, they actually had the right idea, because they knew exactly who they wanted to target. It's just they weren't able to engage them, and then we were able to like find the water and hole, you could say, like where were people hanging out. It's on LinkedIn, and we have 10,000 LinkedIn connections. And as everything came together, the materials and everything, and actually, there was work. Say, hey, here's different ideas. And communicating it. Jedron, who was kind of the leader on this, was helping out at Strike Deck, did these pieces, and once it connected, it was like bam, in like 90 days, right? They're bought. So I've seen this happen. Once, not just in this case, in my own business multiple times, right? When you get all the pieces lined up. Now, for me, like, I mean, I did this with Big M. Mitch and I, we really like blew it up one time, but it didn't make a lot of money. I just like didn't have really like, this is good, another learning. Like, okay, I scaled something that just didn't really have, I just didn't care that much about. I wanted to learn more than I wanted to actually make any money. And so like, I just didn't fill in the blanks on a lot of pieces at that time, so. But yeah, I mean, it was like that part of it works, right? Like you can go and be like, hey, I line all the pieces up and I scale something. You're like, doesn't make any money because I missed out on like, that happens all the time in like products, right? There's something like that, some mechanics don't work as you scale up, right? And so yeah, but so execution does matter though, because if I mean, it's just an obvious thing, and if you don't send a lot of messages, or if you don't, get your word out, you fail, right? I mean, that's just obvious failure, but it happens all the time, or the flip side happens is that it's like, this is probably like, it's so strange, like, and I found myself getting caught up in it, and it's like, how do you get out of this trap? It's like, the answer is Facebook or the answer is LinkedIn. And like LinkedIn say is part of the answer. That another wisdom nugget I picked up is just sort of saying, one channel, one product, one year, $1 million. Or like one channel, 1 year, $1 million, right? So it's like, hey, there's wisdom in that, right? Like stay focused, and find your watering hole, find your where your people are buying. But from there, though, like that alone, like that isn't an answer. LinkedIn ads isn't an answer. It's like there's a strategy that might be like, hey, we run ads, and it's because it's a direct marketing, and you run ads and you optimize a funnel, and that you have the resources to do that. Sure, that's fine, but a number of times, especially this kind of entrepreneurial, it's like almost endemic. It's like, oh well, if we just do X, that's going to be the answer. And it's like, okay, well, sure, if we send a bunch of emails, we just execute like 100,000 emails. Okay, cool. Nobody did anything. Well, what's missing? Are they the right people? Are you sending the right message? So all of these pieces are super important. And so anyway, that's the talk about what this image looks like here, for this diagram. But I'm going to also flip to talk about how this makes me different, which is my process for my product is designed to address all of these things as a competitive advantage, say, for me to say, okay, so what I mean is, when I produce content or material for someone, I'm going to consider all of these angles as part of your own marketing, right? And so it's like, hey, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk strategy. I'm going to be producing materials that are aligned to help you support that strategy. And I also contribute to your execution, meaning okay, how does this work in real life, right? You and I sit down and we have a really great conversation about your business, your product, and I'm going to produce insanely awesome materials around that, right? And that are aligned around your positioning to help bolster that in an authentic way. And then I'm also going to send out a bunch of stuff for you, right? I'm just going to help with your marketing execution, because this is all about producing great content that reinforces your brand and your position and getting real numbers. And what super inspired me to this the other day was just talking with the guys at Surin, and I'm like, hey, we have this event and we need to go into the event, and it's coming up, and invite people in LinkedIn, right? Like Georgia needs to do 10 a day. I need to do 10 a day. Gary should do 10 a day. I mean, you start to imagine now you get 5 people there or whatever it is, and you're like, okay, now we're doing 50 a day for 10 days. We're going to invite 500 and more people, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, right? And so when I'm thinking about being an influencer, it's like, okay, I'm gonna use this really killer process I have to extract great content from someone about the product or strategy, positioning, and I'm gonna tell a really killer story, make it fun, make it engaging, and then I'm gonna share that out, not just on an email, I'm gonna post it, I'm gonna do direct messaging, I'm gonna do all of these quantifiable actions and share the results, right? Some of it, most of it's shareable. Okay, I went and just did 10 LinkedIn event invites. I'm not sure it's not every little tiny thing is trackable, but there's a lot. Okay, I can go send LinkedIn DMs or whatever, right? So that's why my plan includes the tactical actions, because those make a difference, and they build that authenticity. So hopefully this will turn out to be a useful output for me, because I want to include in the landing page this thing for me, right? We're gonna do this in a strategically valuable way. We're gonna produce killer content, and it's gonna be scaled up, quantifiably, right? Bingo. Awesome, and thanks everybody for jumping on today. I'm Govind Davis. Hold on, I'm gonna fix this right here. Edit. DM. Put it right there. So DM, Govind Davis on LinkedIn. There I am. Thanks to my sponsors, and looking forward to finishing this page